guys, and welcome back to my channel and to another video. I'm so pleased to have you here. I'm actually in the spare room in my house as we're undergoing just lots of work. This is, I mean, to be fair, it doesn't look too bad in this video. This is the tidiest, one of the tidiest rooms in the house. This is my makeshift dressing room at the minute. Whilst that's getting all sorted, I was thinking about actually doing a house tour. A couple of people have asked for it. If you would be interested, let me know when it's ready. I would love to do that. So anyway, that is not what today's video is about. I just don't think I've ever been in this room, or maybe I have. I can't remember. Anyway, I don't think I've been in this room on here. So just wanted to introduce this one of the spare rooms of my house. But yes, today's video is about things that I wish I had known sooner with regards to my cycle. I mean, first and foremost, I wish I'd known more about my cycle from a younger age, but also when getting into like training. I mean, growing up, I was very much a cardio bunny. I thought it was cardio, and you know, restrict with calories, which is just terrible anyway. But when I got into weight training in around 2012, 2013, so I was like in my early mid-20s then, and I got a PT, and he basically helped to teach me how to lift weights, like me and one of my best friends, and we just fell in love with it, and both became personal trainers. So yeah, around then we used to speak about it very briefly, but it wasn't really spoken about in depth. And I do understand, I mean, I do think that male PTs should have an understanding of it, and I think because there's more talk about it now that they do, so it's not necessarily any shade at him. I do feel like it is a bit of an awkward one for men because they don't have that first-hand experience, but we did touch on it, especially if we're getting weighed and things like that. He would put a star next to it if we're on a period. So anyway, I just wish that I'd known it sooner, long before weightlifting. But there was something that I really wish that I had known, that I've learned myself along the way. And I didn't even really learn all that much about it until I was about 28, 29, I think, because that's when I came off the pill and I was learning a bit more about it. And I'd been thinking about coming off, I wasn't on the pill actually, and then the pill, then I had the implant in my arm, so I came off the implant, but when I came off birth control, I thought about it for a year, and I was learning more and more about the cycle and how it impacts us, and I kind of just wanted to know what was going on with my body without masking it with birth control. That was just a personal decision, but that was when I really started to learn about it. So I would say I was training for about 6 years before I even knew any of this. And three main things that I would say that I wish I knew sooner, and that I always make sure I talk to about my clients. I talk about this a lot on social media. I wanted to go through them with you guys in a bit more detail, so hopefully this helps you. I've made some little notes here on my phone to make sure that I get all the education stuff in there. But the first one that I would say is understanding that your energy and therefore motivation will shift. This can be due to the hormonal changes throughout the month. So our hormones are always changing right throughout the month. We are, as women, cyclical creatures. So our hormones are changing all of the time. And that means we can wake up feeling very differently every day. Now, studies have shown that it doesn't actually impact our strength. Now, there's not that many studies out there, and it's quite complex when it comes to women, as we are so different. As those are, as far as my understanding anyway, studies without looking at endometriosis, PCOS, PMDD. However, we do tend to feel a lot more lethargic, especially in the luteal phase as we get closer towards the bleed. This is due to the progesterone hormone. But it's more of basically the progesterone hormone is a calming hormone and makes us feel more relaxed. So motivation's just no. But as we head closer to the bleed, particularly, all of our hormones drop to their lowest level just before we start bleeding. So this in itself can have a big impact on our energy. We can just feel really as I say, lethargic, motivation is at an all-time low, and we just don't want to don't want to go, don't want to do it. On top of the water changes that we can experience around this time. So because of all these changes in the hormones, this can basically mean that our bodies hold on to water retention. We can experience this all over our bodies. We can often notice this mostly in our stomachs. I know for me anyway, again, we're very different. I do notice it in my face sometimes. As well, but I know some women talk about noticing it in their legs, noticing it in their arms. You know, as I say, we're all very different, but that water retention is very temporary and it will go. But that in itself can just also make us feel a bit, as I say, like groggy, sluggish, lethargic, and just not really in the mood to put on tight gym wear and get to the gym. However, we show up and stay consistent and adapt where we need to. But again, I wish I had known that and just be like, okay, like, today's maybe not going to be a PB day. Again, you know, I've spoke about this before. Doesn't mean you've got to give yourself a storyline and just write off, you know, like, oh, I'm not going to feel strong today, when actually you might. For example, last week I was hip thrusting, literally 2 days before my period arrived. I was doing over 100 kg and it was hard. It felt harder than what it maybe would have after my period, for example. Like I might have still done the same weight and maybe not felt as like depleted, if that makes sense. But like I say, you know, don't write yourself off. But similarly, you know, you might go into a session and just think, today's not the day to push. I'm just gonna make some adaptations so I can keep moving and keep being consistent and follow my program. And, you know, like I'll get back to progressively overloading in my next session or next week or whenever it might be. So that's like one big thing. Like, I mean, again, motivation in general, I've spoken about. You're never going to feel motivated all of the time. It is literally like an emotion, but when your energy is lower, your motivation is more likely to be lower. So it's just keeping that in mind and, you know, trying to incorporate daily, weekly habits so that you know, you've got that routine. Like I say, you can stay consistent. But similarly, moving on to point 2, not feeling guilty if you need to rest more. Especially, like I say, when it comes to things like endometriosis, PMDD, all these things, the luteal phase and around the period can feel way more intense, especially mentally as well. And sometimes just taking a step back and maybe going for a walk or doing some gentle stretching or even just doing something like yoga, which can help you, you know, kind of like your mind with the breathing and things as well, is completely fine. You know, we talk about being consistent. That doesn't mean that you can't, like, you know, take an extra rest if you need it, or like switch it for like a yoga session. It's just, I always like to highlight that you don't need to change up your sessions every week, or every phase. I would always recommend some strength training in there. And following that with progressive overload. However, you know, it doesn't mean to say that you can't like switch out and do other sessions if you feel like you need to. It's about listening to you and your body. As I said, we're all different, but every month can also be very different. So it's really important to, again, not give yourself that storyline, but think, okay, like, where am I on my cycle today? Like, is this why I'm maybe feeling this way? What can I do to move my body to feel good and keep up with that consistency, and also to keep your mind feeling good and just not feeling guilty for resting. Again, as I said, I came up with a very HIIT cardio foundation of starting my fitness journey to be as small as possible. And that came with a lot of restriction with calories and over-exercising. And I just always would feel guilty if I missed a session or if I didn't go as hard. And like, you know, even just going back to my first point about like not getting like a PB, like, I mean, not every session's going to be the same, no matter what phase you're going to be like the best session ever, no matter what phase you're in. But I'd feel extra guilty around those times, and looking back, I don't know if there was a pattern, but there probably was. And I just didn't know it. Like, I didn't realize it. But now, like, tracking my cycle, having a better understanding of like what's going on with my body has made a huge difference. And this was the same for being on contraception as well. Like, you don't ovulate when you're on contraception. That's what it stops. Basically, it stops ovulation so that you don't get pregnant, with it being birth control. But it basically, and again, depends on the birth control, but it basically releases synthetic hormones into your body. So you might get similar symptoms. So it will mimic like the hormones a little bit and the symptoms. So it's always worth tracking. Like the app that I use, a few apps to be fair, but Clue that I've used for the longest, that one you input in what if you're on contraception or not. So I always say it's worth doing, because you might find a pattern, or you likely will find a pattern. And again, it just gives you a bit of a better understanding of like where you're at, so you can remove that guilt and maybe understand that bit better what your body needs. So I always would recommend that. So that would be for point 2. And then point 3, which I've touched upon slightly, as I said, I came up from a background of like restricting and trying to eat as little as possible all of the time to be as small as possible. But eating enough is one of the most important things you can do for your body, again, throughout your cycle. Cycle aside, just, like really fueling your body correctly, but even more so, again, in that luteal phase, because there's so much more going on in your body. So what is happening in the luteal phase is your body's then starting initially to prepare you for pregnancy. That's what the progesterone hormone helps with. But then when it gets closer to your period, your body realizes that the sperm hasn't, I was going to say ovulated with the egg. That's not right. The sperm hasn't come and met the egg. That's not the science term. But basically, your body's not pregnant. It realizes this, your hormones all start dropping, and it prepares to shed the lining of the uterus wall, which is what your period is. So there's so much going on in the luteal phase. It's initially the first half preparing the body for pregnancy. When it realizes that isn't happening, it then starts to prepare the body to have your period. So there's so much more going on inside that you can't see, but that is using up more energy. So your body therefore needs more food to help with that. And you can burn around 100 to 300 calories more per day. So basically your metabolism increases around this time of your cycle. So it is even more important to eat more food around this time. No matter what your goals are. For example, and I speak about this a lot, I'd say the majority of my online clients are fat loss clients. If they are in a so obviously they are in a deficit, and what I will often recommend is to have a few hundred calories more around this time if they feel they need it, or even to go up to maintenance. And what that will do is help to keep that client in the deficit for the month. So it's what you do over time that's the most important. So if they're in the deficit for the month, it will also help in that period of time, pardon the pun, to manage cravings, to keep hunger levels not going wild, to keep energy levels more stable, to keep mood more stable as well. So they're not like feeling out of control. And yes, it will be slightly slower, but it will be, like I say, very, very slightly slower fat loss progress. However, thinking of the long-term bigger picture, it is so much better, and you're going to feel much better and have a better quality of life for having more food. And again, if you're on a fat loss journey, it shouldn't be, you're not going to be in a deficit forever and ever, but that's just an example of what I would do. So I always just like to highlight that time of your cycle, there's so much more going on. You're not crazy. You're not imagining why your cravings are out of control. Like if I'm just in a fat loss phase, can get to a point there, even to be fair, I'm sitting at maintenance now, I'm saying this, I feel like a bottomless pit and I just need to eat more, and I always make sure that I do. And it is so much better to lean into that and think, okay, what can I have that's going to serve my body? If I'm getting some protein in, like having an extra snack or maybe a bigger meal portion, making sure I've got protein, fats, fibre, obviously your carbs in there. So you've got a balanced plate that's going to keep your blood sugars balanced. You're not going to have a crazy spike. It's also going to increase satiety, so it's going to keep you feeling fuller for longer, and it's going to just manage that craving so much better. And obviously the extra calories will make you feel fuller and help with your energy levels, and as I say, therefore your mood. I don't know about you, but when I'm hungry, I am awful to be around. So it's going to make your mood better, and it's just going to make you nicer to be around. So always just making sure that you're fueling yourself correctly. And I mean, the same applies in every phase. Like I say, eating regular meals, not skipping meals. When you're skipping meals, you are sending your blood sugars on a crazy, crazy old journey where they're going to peak and trough, and just it's not good. Without waffling on too much about that, eating regularly can help to keep your blood sugars nice and balanced and stable, and therefore your energy and your mood and your hormones and all of the rest of it. It's really, really important. So like, with your main meals, making sure you've got protein, carbs, fat, and some fibre in there, and lots of whole foods without restricting anything. And on that, it's okay to snack. Again, if you're feeling more hungry, add in an extra snack. I mean, I have snacks every day. I just make sure that they're balanced and that they've got some protein in there. But again, not always. But that will just really help to keep your blood sugar nice and balanced, and keep your energy and your mood stable, which is what you want, as I say, in every phase, but especially that phase where you can really feel it, especially when you feel your mood really dipping with the change in your hormones, like in the luteal phase, the late luteal phase, heading into your period. So there are 3 things that I would say I wish I had known about sooner, and they're all kind of interlinked with each other. So just to review them, first of all, the energy dips and the lack of motivation due to the hormone changes. And again, like I say, I don't always feel motivated anyway. Energy dips and the changes in your energy levels that you can feel, and also like the water retention, especially around the luteal phase. And then number 2, not feeling any guilt for resting. Rest is also very productive, and you need enough rest in every phase, but especially in the luteal phase, around the first few days of the bleed, or even the bleed in general, you might just need that little bit more. And thirdly, finally, eating enough food, fueling your body, maybe even having a little bit more around the luteal phase and your period if you feel like you need it, because your body is working harder than ever before. So I hope that this is helpful, guys. If you've got any questions, do let me know. I tend to find that I go off on a tangent when I get into this topic because I'm so passionate about it. I really believe that women should be educated on this from a very young age, and I say a lot of women come up until they're 30s, 40s, even older, and don't even really know anything about it. Like I say, I was nearly 30, so it's wild, because I started my periods when I was 10, so that's nearly 20 years of not really understanding what the hell was going on. What the hell are you? So very, very passionate about it, and I have a lot to say about it. I could talk about it, as I say, all the time. So if anything wasn't clear, please pop it in the comments. Would love to answer any questions, and also it might be worth doing another video where I could talk a bit more in depth if it would be helpful as well. So do just let me know, guys. But I do hope you can take I hope you can take a lot away from this, to be honest, because like I say, those things are all really important. The power of moving your body, exercise, getting strong and fueling your body with good food without restriction and getting enough rest and all of that stuff, that it's so powerful for obviously your cycle, but just your overall health and well-being. And I always talk about, there is a book called The Fifth Vital Sign, and that as women is our our cycle is our extra vital sign. And if something's not right with your cycle, it's your body trying to tell you something. So getting an understanding of what's going on and what's normal for you is really important, because it can really help you to see if there is something that's not quite right, or whatever it might be. But just in general, just to understand how to basically, I was going to say live your life, but as it is in a sense, really. I know there's sometimes even which I haven't even touched upon, where I'm going to feel way more productive. So now I'm in the follicular phase, I feel way more productive than what I do when I'm on my period, for example, and I'm sure a lot of women can relate to that. So as I say, it just helps you to have a better understanding of you and your overall health, which is really important. But anyway, see, I'm waffling on again. I will stop. But I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. Please like and subscribe. It really, really helps me, really supports me. I always appreciate your support. So thank you so very much. And I will see you on the next one.